Hello and welcome to the show. Before we begin, apologies because there's going to be some noise all around me. But as usual, that shouldn't stop us from having an impactful episode today. Also, the sore throat is it's hanging in there, so I might sound a little nasal and maybe there might be some coughing and hacking, but I'll try to be mindful of your eardrums. All right, so let's see. Okay, so before I took a break, I think on the previous episode, that's when we made the detour, and I spoke about how ladies in leadership positions feel the what will I say, the pressure or the demands to show up as less than authentic in business environments and in work environments. Now, at the time that I made the episode, after I put it up, I figured, what was that detour all about? Was there a need for me to address those kinds of stuff over here on the podcast? But then this morning on the drive out, I was having a conversation with my wife, and unrelated, she brought out a couple of these things about how when she started work as a younger girl a couple of years ago, back when she got involved in a regulatory agency, how there were some of these pressures that her and some of the young ones felt, that the younger ladies felt, to appear professional but at the same time yet be chill. Now, of course, I remember those days because we used to talk about it, and for her, there was no pressure per se. I mean, like she felt what the she felt what the expectations seemed to be, but it was something that she totally balked at, and there was also another friend of hers who was there, so navigating the whole thing for her didn't seem much of a problem, but other women seem to face those sorts of things. So I guess me making that topic was topical or good enough. So I guess it's not just the random post that I saw on LinkedIn. And the bottom line, what I'm saying is that if you're a young lady listening to this podcast, well, even an older lady too, because like I said, I've had some of these conversations with my aunties. So whatever stage of business you are at or your career, if you're feeling some of these things, some of these pressures, then listen to the previous episode, and hopefully there's going to be some nuggets of wisdom over there. Now, you guys will be glad to hear that we are going to be back on topic from this episode. And before I made the two detours, we had been talking about objections that people face in business. And objections are any reason that your potential customer, potential client, the person that you're talking to, your teammate, your departmental office, colleague, whatever, the reasons that they give for not wanting to go ahead with the sale, with the project, with the agenda, with the whatever it is you guys seem to be working on. So if you say, I think we should do A, and the person says, no, not A, whatever that no is, that is the objection. And this current set of episodes that we're going to be working on, hopefully we're not going to make any more details until we're done, is to look at scenarios where these things come up and then to come up with a way for how to go around them. Now, remember, for those of you who've been listening for a while, I pointed out that there's a difference between objections and conditions. If something is an objection, it means that, you might have missed something. There might be room for some progress. If you can understand what is going on, get some more information, and then reframe the proposal or reframe the discussion, you might be able to move ahead. But sometimes something is a condition, and that means that there are some prerequisites that have to be met, and so you can go ahead. The examples that I gave, for instance, was sales of alcohol to minors, for instance. So you're trying to sell the latest drink, whatever it is. Let's say you have this what are these things called? Bitters, yeah, like Odogu bitters, and what else? There's Odogu bitters. There's anyway, you get my point. For those of you that love alcohol, the those bitters drinks. So you're trying to sell the bitters. The person looks at you and the person says, "Hey, I'm 15 years old." In that case, that is a condition because the prerequisite is, at least according to law, that you have to be 18 to drink. So in that situation, just stop. This is not an objection. It's a condition. It's a prerequisite. So stop. Don't go ahead. Another example that I gave, yeah, I know it was dramatic, but I did it to prove a point. If you sell female shoes and you happen to be talking to a man, some of you might say, it doesn't matter, it's a man. but he has a woman in his life. So let me push on. I'm sure I can make the sale. But if you're talking to a man and the man has no wife, he's a widower, and the man has no daughters, he only has boys, and let's say he has no sisters, and let's say he doesn't have any close friends in the office. Now that's an extreme example, because what are the odds that you're going to run into a man who has no female relatives, dependents, loved ones? But I'm just doing it to prove a point. In that kind of situation, there's no sale to be made there, because you sell female shoes. This man is not going to use it himself, except if he's a cross-dresser. There are no women in his life that he can buy it as a gift for. So in that situation, just weave and move on. Now, by the way, for those of you thinking about some of these unlikely scenarios, today I was at an event and I heard about one really, really, really unlikely scenario that has occurred. At least for Nigerians, it sounds to be unlikely. And that is when you run into somebody who claims that they have no uncles and they have no aunties. Now, in a Nigerian setting, that doesn't make sense, because a whole bunch of us are from fairly large families. Now, my mom only had 2 kids, but we had a bunch of cousins growing up with us. So my parents raised seven kids collectively. And then my father was number 4 in 11, I think, or 10. And my mom was number 5 of 12 or something like that. So for those of you who are not Nigerian, especially those of you listening from America, because for now, half of my listeners are still Americans, and I'm surprised. So you Americans, it'd be nice if you reach out, hit me up in the DMs, let me know what's up, let me know why you guys listen to the show, and perhaps maybe there's some things that I'm out to clarify for you guys. So for those of you listening from that part of the world, it might sound strange, like, what the hell? 10 kids, 12 kids, it's just that's just the reality when you're talking to Nigerians of a certain generation. So for people in my own generation, if you hear that someone doesn't have any uncles or aunties, like, what? How can that happen? Well, today I found out it can happen. There was someone who was the child of only children. So let me repeat. There was someone in the event, a lady. Her father is an only child. Her mom is an only child. Therefore, she has no uncles and she has no aunties. So sometimes I come up with all these ridiculous scenarios, but I guess sometimes it happens. So you might run into Nigerians out there who have no uncles and aunties. Sounds strange, but it does happen. Now, let's get back on topic. Today's objection, since we've already looked at one. We've looked at it's too expensive, I can't afford it, blah, 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 those sorts of things. So if this is your first time listening to the show and you want to figure out the framework, the process, the mindset for dealing with when someone says, I can't afford it, you're too expensive, then skip back 2 episodes. There's going to be the episode of... Anyway, don't worry, just skip back 2 episodes, you get the point, and you find out what we discussed about how to handle those sorts of situations. So today, we're going to look at another money-based objections. That's when people give money as a reason for not going ahead. And that is when people say no budget is allocated for now. Now, I know for most of you listening to the show, Nigerians, I'm sure it's something you haven't come across, because you guys are either used to, okay, no problem, give me your account details, or you're too expensive, bring down the price. I'm sure a lot of you haven't come across no budget allocated for now. It does happen. And it happens when the prospect hasn't considered your product or your service before. Now, there are a whole bunch of you running around claiming to be AI specialists, AI prompt engineers, and blah, 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 and things like that. You guys are most likely going to come across this sort of objection, because it's not something that most organizations have considered before. So you go to talk to the Ministry of Finance, you're saying that you want to run a training on AI prompt engineering, and because as the apex regulator in Nigeria, that people should be aware of global trends and how it can help make their job more efficient, data crunching, reporting, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you can do all that whole spiel, but by the time you're done, the secretary to the PERMSEC or the whoever you're talking to can say, no budget allocated, because the budgets are approved on an annual basis, and they approved all the training for this coming year, and there's no budget. So you EI guys, you're going to hear that sort of thing. Then it also happens where your product requires significant investment, capital investment, those sorts of things. So those of you in the alternative energy space, you might hear that sort of thing. You're talking to folks at Zenith Bank or Access Bank. You're hoping that they can buy your latest solar powered system, put a bunch of panels on the roof, and so you can soup up the whole bank branch. And yeah, they can say that sort of thing because it's not like something that they're going to pay 250K and get it over with. If it's going to be the whole building, we're talking millions and millions and millions because right now, well, the last time I checked anyway, simple tubular batteries like the one that I have for my own inverter, it goes up and down depending on what the dollar rate is. And at the time, I think my own batteries were going to cost about 600 grand if I wanted to replace them because 300 grand for each. I need two, so that's 600. You can see they're already close to a mil on that alone. Not talk about solar panels and things like that. And then of course, there's no how that a whole bank branch is going to run on only two batteries. You're going to need loads of batteries, loads of panels. So for you boys and girls who are playing in that big space, yeah, you can hear no budget is allocated for now. Then, of course, economic downturns mean some people's priorities change. So maybe before the election, you are talking to a couple of people and it looked like you might close this solar panel deal. And then the president came in. Then there was that thing about that his speech about a fuel subsidy and the energy cost triple and blah, 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 blah. I know some of you might say, well, actually, it's the reason to go ahead and buy the solar panels. But then people can say, like, look, you know what? We are struggling right now. Our priorities have changed, no budget allocated. So you can hear that. Then there are also times when no budget allocated for now just means that the person that you're talking to needs to talk to somebody higher up. He needs to talk to his Oga at the top. He needs to talk to Madam CEO. He needs to talk to Oga Bello. He needs to talk to whoever to approve the budget because budget has been approved for this year up to the tune of maybe 500K and maybe they've already spent 460. Your solution is going to cost 200K. So he needs to talk to somebody higher up. Sometimes people are not that eloquent. They just say no budget allocated for now. But if you ask a couple of questions, you might figure out that what it actually means is I might need to talk to someone higher up to see how we can sort this thing out. Now, if you listen to the prior episodes, then you already know philosophically how we're supposed to handle this. And the framework is always acknowledge, empathize. You want people to feel like they're being heard. And nobody likes to made to feel like they're a liar or like they're a liar or their excuse is not reasonable. So whatever it is you need to do in this situation, yeah, say something to acknowledge or to empathize. Like, yeah, I understand, 3 months ago when we started this conversation, things were one way, now the dollar is this. And with what President Tinubu said, the cost of this is this, like, I get. So you always have to do that acknowledging and empathizing bit. Then the next stage, like I recommended 2 podcast episodes ago, was we need to ask clarifying questions. We need to go back to qualification and discovery. That's where we ask questions about the person, their needs, the problem that needs to be solved, the vision that they're trying to achieve, things like that. Because we're trying to get some more information. We're trying to understand what's going on. Because you can only come up with a new proposal or try and refocus the conversation if you have more data. If you don't get more data, if you don't get more information, and you keep trying to close based on the old set of information that you have, you're going to come across as a blockhead because you said ABC, XYZ, would you like to buy now? And the person says no budget allocated. And then you just repeat the whole process, ABC, XYZ, therefore buy now. You come across as a blockhead and they don't want to have anything to do with you. But if you pause, you acknowledge, yeah, I understand, times have changed, the economic climate, blah, 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 cost of fuel. You ask a couple of questions and you figure out this is one of those situations that maybe the guy needs to talk to a higher up. Then the problem is a whole lot easier. If he wants to talk to a higher up, there's room for some flexibility here. You can give him time to talk to his boss, come back at a later date, negotiate payment terms, try and phase out the application. No, not application. What's that word? Is it execution? Yeah, let's go with execution for now. So there are lots of options that can be done, but the thing is, you can only do that after you ask some clarifying questions. And when you ask clarifying questions, you're trying to figure out if there is a need or if people are even interested in the first place. So back to the whole AI thing, you're trying to talk to somebody in the Ministry of Finance. Maybe your uncle or your auntie works in Ministry of Finance. She's been able to hook you up with a meeting. So you want to try and sell them on this AI thing. After all, everybody's talking AI. So you figure, me too, I use AI now. Let me just do this in sharp. Let me say I can make a quick 500K, maybe 1M out of this whole thing. Go and stand and give them training session, talk for 2 hours and then collect 1M, that kind of thing. Because there are people who think in that sense, think in those terms. So, you're thinking of just having a quick one, and you need to find out, is it that the Ministry of Finance person that you're talking to thinks that there is a need, that people in the Ministry of Finance need to be trained up in AI so they can do data crunching better and blah, blah, blah? Or is it that the person doesn't even know what AI means, and as far as the person is concerned, you're just here wasting their time? They only took this meeting out of a favor to your uncle or to your auntie who hooked it up, because they respect your auntie, so they just decided to take this meeting. So you need to ask these questions and try and figure out where you stand, because that depends on how you're going to go ahead. If this person is saying that there's absolutely no need, no point in continue talking to this person. Hopefully, you have not been doing this deal single-threaded. Single-threaded is when you're only talking to one person within the organization. If you've been single-threaded, then Oyo is your own, as in there's nothing else to do. So, but if you've been multi-threaded, no problem. You can ease off on this guy and see how you can start talking to other people to see how you can move your agenda. Then, if there is interest, the person thinks that AI is the future, and Nigeria can't be caught behind. We need to know about AI, and those sorts of things in our public service. If there is interest, then there's room for options, and we will address some of those options in the future. Then, like I said, sometimes there's no budget means it's just a temporary hurdle. As per, we budgeted 500K for training, we've already used 480. What you're proposing costs 200. Then, in that case, you can see that there are options like, okay, no problem. You guys spend 480, that means that 20K remain. And I'm saying that this thing is going to cost 200 grand. So, no problem. Why don't you just drop the 20K now, and then we'll sign all the paperwork. And then for the next budgeting cycle, you guys will drop, half the money in the first 1 month, and then the remaining in the next 2 months or something. But you get my gist. So, if it's a temporary hurdle, these are the kind of moves that you can now start doing. But you need to ask the question. Is it that there's no need, there's no interest, this is a temporary problem? Or is it that you guys are having cash flow constraints? So you guys can start talking about payment plans, all these sorts of things. Or, after having all these sorts of conversations, you can also try and refocus on the long-term value to show that this product is actually going to give you cost savings. So back to the solar power example, Zenith Bank might say, look, cost of energy, we can't go ahead. I guess your argument would now be like, hey, bros, actually, or madam, bank MD, now is the time to go ahead because of the whole cost. Because based on unit economics, what we've calculated with these new prices, this is what you're going to spend in 6 months. But if you buy this solar, even though the cost, you're going to put the cost in this first year's budget, you see that over the next 3 or 4 years, you're actually going to be saving hundreds or millions amounts of naira, in savings, monthly or annually or whatever, if you just buy the system now. So that can be the argument. So just trying to refocus on long-term value. When people say that we don't have budget, you're trying to focus on cost savings or efficiency or all that kind of stuff. Let's see. Okay, 20 minutes. Let me try and wrap up real quick. So, remember, if you ask questions and it looks like this is a temporary hurdle or it's just cash flow issues that are going on, or they're interested but it looks like they're in a tight condition, then the things I spoke about earlier, they now come into play. You can offer flexible options, or you can offer payment plans. When I say flexible options, I don't mean reduce the price. So, you guys who have been listening to the podcast for a while know that I really think this whole reducing the price thing, it's when your hand is tied. But don't just start off with reducing the price. So when I say flexible options, that's where you try and dig down, figure out exactly what they need, and then adjust the quote accordingly. So back to the solar panel, the alternative energy solutions thing. That'll be the stage where you say that, okay, you know what, Madam Bank MD, I understand, but how about we do it this way? We'll only leave the AC in the general banking area and then in the offices, but then we'll disconnect the AC in this place, disconnect the AC in that place. We'll remove the freezers and the fridges. Okay, no, bank branch should not have freezer. Okay, they should have fridge and water dispenser. Okay, yes. So remove the fridges, remove the water dispenser. If you do that, the number of batteries will drop down, number of solar panels will drop down. Instead of spending 8M, we will now be able to do this project at 6.2, something like that. So flexible options. Then payment plans, just like I said, they say budget, they only budgeted 500k, they have spent 480. That's when you now start doing that math. Like, oh, okay, that means you guys have 20k. Drop 20k. After we do like this, you drop 50k. After we do like this, you drop the remaining 150k. That sort of thing. Or a phased implementation, like, okay, we can execute this part in this part of your budgetary cycle. Especially for those of you who are dealing with corporations or maybe government agencies where you have to catch them before budget is approved, or else voila. So you can do a phased implementation that, okay, we'll do this phase now, we're targeting next phase when you get the next tranche of funding or budgeting or whatever, or you offer trial periods. Anyway, I'm just saying that get your creativity cap on, the options. Let me put it that way. Then, if you are in that situation where you are kind of not sure, like, is there a need? Are they interested? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. You're in one of those situations, you don't quite know what to do. Just throw the people back into your relationship nurturing or your relationship building sequence. Those are your protocols, your processes, your frameworks, in your CRM. Remember, CRM is customer relationship management tool. Over here on the podcast, I've been advocating for a very long time that your CRM doesn't have to be anything fancy. Even if you're using Excel sheets or you're using Google Calendar or using your diary, still the same, all join. For now, that is CRM. When you have money, you can buy something much more fancy. So, just put the person's number back in your diary and move the date for 2 weeks, a month, or whatever cadence feels more comfortable to you. That's the whole thing about relationship nurturing and relationship building. The aim here is to remain top of mind. People should have a reason to see you and to hear you, whether in real life or in social media. So even if it's just you're branching their office in another 2 months, or you say, no wahala, Oga, no problem. Oh, are you on LinkedIn? Okay, I'm on LinkedIn too. Let me send you connection request. Follow me. The person at least will be seeing you. You pop up on their social media. That's the whole thing. Remain top of mind. Then the goal is you're trying to provide valuable content. You're trying to provide insights for them, things like that. So when you pass through the office in 2 months, don't pass through to say, Oga, how now? Madam, how now? I just see me, I greet you. That I just came to greet. That is a lousy way to follow up. There should be something insightful behind your visit. If you're passing through in 3 years' time to say, oh, Madam CEO, Madam MD, I was in the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. On the news what they've been talking about recently about how federal government is battling Bitcoin exchanges and whatnot. The cost of Forex is expected to drop by so and so percent. Madam MD, it looks like if we're serious, this might be the time to move ahead, because if the price drops, if Forex goes from how do they say this thing again? If the price of naira to dollar goes from $1,000 to 750, this project that we build for you at 7M, you might experience a reduction of so and so something. So you can see that this one is a valuable visit. As far as Madam MD knows, you just happen to be in the neighborhood. You say you should come and greet, and you just happen to mention that, oh, this and this and this is what Tinubu's government is doing. If this thing pans out right, the cost of dollar will fall from 1,000 to 750. If it falls to 750, this is how it will approach. It will affect the cost of the solar panels and the battery and whatnot. So, Madam MD, if you guys are really keen about it, now is the time. So let's just see as we can revive this conversation again. So try and remain top of mind. Give them good content. Give them insights. The whole approach is you're just trying to build credibility and trust so that when they have budget in the future, or maybe when they're convinced or whatever, they might be ready to move ahead. So remember, this is for those people where you're not so sure, are they interested? Are they not interested? You don't just throw somebody away like that. In my own opinion, the only time when you throw somebody away, like don't contact them again, is when somebody tells you upfront. If the person says, look, young man, you're a nuisance, don't call me again, then by all means, don't call them again. Because the next time they hear your voice, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. So if somebody says you're a nuisance, don't call me again. Don't call that person again. If the person doesn't say you're a nuisance, but you think that, I've been hanging around this Oga, I've been hanging around this madam, but there's no value I'm bringing to this relationship. Me, ma, I'm not deriving any value. Then what's the point? So those kind of people, if you forget their number, it's not a bad idea. But for other people, just put them in relationship nurturing, relationship building, keep top of mind, keep giving them content, insights, just appear to be the trusted person in your field so that when they're ready, it will make no sense. You'll be you because you're the only one that they've been saying the last couple of months or years. Bottom line, these options are only available if you have done discovery properly. So make sure you're talking to the right person. Make sure that they have a need. Make sure that there's a problem. Make sure that these people are facing some negative impacts that your product or your service can solve. If you don't do this stage of your sales conversations properly, then all these flexible plan and staggering implementation and everything is not going to work. So we have to be able to do discovery properly. And that's the reason why I keep harping on and on this podcast that sales is a conversation. Like you guys should be, how do I put it? Like you guys should be yarning. You say A, they say B, and you say D, and you're flowing, you're vibing. If every single time you come into Oga's office or Madam's office and it's you talk, presentation, proposal, you try to wire them over, they didn't say anything, you leave, you come back again, is you doing your monologue, you come back in 2 months, is you doing your monologue, that's not selling. This thing should be a conversation. That is the spirit that you guys should be adopting when you're trying to move your merchandise, sell your product, or sell your service. Now, in case you haven't figured it out, the whole goal of all this activity that we're trying to do is when somebody says there's no budget, we're just trying to see, first of all, what do they mean by no budget? Because we're trying to figure out if no budget means, we're trying to see if we can turn no budget into, okay, maybe we can do that next quarter. Maybe we can do that next year. Maybe we can do that sometime. Sure, we can do that later. That is what we're trying to aim for when we are faced with this objection. No budget allocated for now. All right, 30 minutes. So let me bring it to a full stop here. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Remember to connect with me on WhatsApp. The number is 080-6466-2140. The country code is +234 for those of you who are not Nigerian. And then connect with me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from you guys. My name is Tavishima Ayede. I'm the host of the show. You can confirm the spelling of my name from the link where you're currently listening to this episode. So thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.